Good afternoon. My name is Linda Chambers, and I'm going to do a short presentation about why does offshoring of United States jobs have a negative impact on the United States economy and society. I'm going to enlighten you about offshoring. Offshoring describes the relocation by a company of a business process from one country to another, which typically is an operational process, such as manufacturing, supporting processes, accounting. State governments employ offshoring as well. And offshoring is popular because companies save money and labor and material costs. So these are just very few issues that I found that cause failure to offshoring of United States jobs due to low-wage countries, culture, labor and workforce management, infrastructure, just random legislation of country abroad, supply chain management. The first issue I'm going to discuss is labor and workforce management. Some customers have problems understanding the accents of overseas service agents. Offshore employees are on a different time schedule than the United States employees are, which leads to an issue of participating in critical product or technical meetings with United States counterparts. If an employee overseas has been up working since 7 o'clock their time, and it's 4 o'clock our time, which would be middle of the night for them, they're working 12 plus hours. And you've got to think that if they've been working that long, they probably don't have very much of a mind to think with, so they're not really putting in their full potential. So kind of, wonder if they're really at their best. More problems that you have with workforce management is slow response time, which leads to frustration or anger of the customer, slow resolution time, and a reduction in product sales that are led by the customers who are either frustrated with the company's service or who boycott companies that outsource. And then you have a problem with loss of direct control by the company over the management. This is a chart that I found that shows skills and lack skills of offshoring agents. The blue column is for the skills that they have and are good at, and then the red shows skills that they are lacking. And as you can see, the communication skills are way worse than they should be. Another thing I would like for you to look at is the tactfulness. You see it is almost the same, so they're not exactly as fast, as we would like for them to be. So just a little, a few things there to look at and notice if you were working with someone overseas. You would want them to have these skills, and it looks like they're lacking in, teamwork skills, flexibility, organizational, tactfulness, communication, initiative. They don't want to take the initiative. They don't have any interpersonal skills, period, apparently. So another issue that I found with offshoring United States jobs is the supply chain management issues. So when a business moves the production of goods and services from the United States to overseas countries, the investments those companies would have otherwise made in the United States market is then transferred to the offshore markets. Corporate money spent on those factories, training, and taxes, which would otherwise be spent in the United States, is then spent in the offshore markets. So in effect, offshoring creates and strengthens the competitive industries of the foreign countries, while strategically weakening the United States country and the United States economy. This makes the United States markets dependent on the offshore markets for those goods and services of the supply chain. So you can see how the supply chain would not benefit from offshoring. United States companies didn't save the money that they thought that they would. Many of the United States companies expected drastic savings from sending jobs overseas, but according to a recent McKinsey Global Institute survey, businesses expected to save up to 70%, but the average savings was about 20%. Further, 50% of the respondents with overseas projects were likely to bring the work back to the United States because those anticipated cost savings were not achieved. So as you can see, statistics show that those costs that they thought they were going to save, they didn't save. This is just a couple of charts for a business named Hercules showing their profit loss, and you can tell that in 2006 2006, it was just below 400 million, and only until 2011, it had just barely almost made over 700 million. So that's not very much of an increase if you think about it. And you can also see that the net margin is down. You also saw that on the chart to the right, 5 years ago, 62% of the sales, were pretty good. But, just a year ago, it was only up to almost 40%. So you can see that there's not very much profit for companies offshoring their jobs. Another issue that I found with offshoring United States jobs is displaced U.S. workers. Loss of jobs for Americans, especially those in customer service and technical fields. Quality problems. American workers outrank overseas workers in terms of the size and the availability of the labor force, education level, relevant experience, language skills, and turnover rates. And this chart here will show you wages of other countries compared to the United States dollar. As you can see in China, they get paid $2.11 per every hour that we make here. In India, it's $1.03. So Malaysia being the most, that's $2.88. So you can see why you would want to pay them instead of paying someone here. They don't have taxes and all the other fun stuff either. This shows you IT services that have been offshored, which are the technical field jobs. 69% of companies outsource their IT services. And you can imagine the help desk being 27%, how much fun that would be if your computer crashes and you're trying to talk to someone who you can't even understand, and they can't understand you. You can't communicate with them, and you got to go to work, but you can't because your computer's down. Then your business decided to outsource or offshore your help desk to another country, which you don't understand. So you can see how that would be a problem for you. Another issue that I found with offshoring of U.S. jobs is social and cultural effects. The social effects issue has been put to the side because the industries are mostly concerned with the more visible effects of the offshoring, like the profit margins and the cost saving, rather than looking for the slow but steady social change outsourcing is causing. Job loss due to outsourcing may lead to protectionism and Nazism, which years later, these can lead to racism and riots and all-out hate crimes. This just shows you that foreign outsourcing, exporting American prosperity, importing third world poverty, one lost middle job class at a time. Are you ready to join the third world? Another issue that I found with offshoring of the United States jobs is security risk. Security breach incidents brings focus the lack of integrated security management systems in offshore call centers outside the United States. The industry is still in the growing stage, and not much attention is paid to ensure that proper security procedures are followed. Some employees have transferred large sums of money to fake accounts that they created from the accounts of American customers of Citibank, whose call operations were handled by offshore companies. It's only after these incidents that the companies have started doing background checks on their employees and have made the background checks a norm in their hiring process. These incidents may raise many questions regarding the safety and security of data when processes are outsourced, and also the capacity of the Indian companies to handle data securely is in question. So my recommendation, to ease potential unrealized problems, local and state governments across the United States are designating more resources to train workers for higher level positions that are less likely to be transferred outside the United States. And then reshoring jobs back to the United States, which gives unemployed citizens their jobs back. And then another option that we can think about is nearshoring. Nearshoring is where you take the outsourced work to a nearby country, such as Canada or Mexico, in the case of the United States. Nearshoring is a popular model for companies that do not want to deal with cultural, language, or time zone differences involved in offshoring. I hope that you have enjoyed my presentation.